What up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. As you can see, we're all here together again. Good stuff. So, today's episode is a pretty chill one. Just gonna do a quick Christmas recap, a few takeaways or whatnot. Talk about Luka Magic, Devin Booker's injury, as well as what team we think is gonna have a run slash like rejuvenation that's a la Boston Celtics from last year. Obviously, probably not going to be that same level, but you never know. Boys, how we doing? How first of all, let's just get the Christmas stuff out the way since that's a few days removed. What were your guys' kind of main takeaways slash thoughts about like the Christmas slate?
Uh, I'll start,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I'll let Christian. I'll let Chin take it. Um, I think this Christmas slate of games were pretty mid, in my opinion. I didn't find any of them to be very exciting. Um, yeah, it was just the Denver Suns game for me that was a little fun, but in terms of the matchup itself, I wasn't a big fan, and obviously, you know, we got that big dunk from Aaron Gordon, but. I mean, I can't. I look back at the whole slate of games, and I'm like, there was nothing that was fun about it. I mean, I don't necessarily think that any of those teams separated themselves in any conversation, except maybe Boston.
Mm.
But we have to think about Milwaukee's health at this point, as well. And Christmas Day games are fun matchups, but more often than not, a lot of these games do end up having blowouts. And so, uh, yeah, I just wasn't very excited about this one. I came away from it being like, okay, that was some basketball today. But I can't say it was like, damn, we got some Christmas Day matchups. But I don't know what you feel, Chid, because that's just how I felt about the whole slate of games. It wasn't that big to me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think real quick, I kind of agree. Like most of the matchups weren't necessarily I think as enticing as they kind of made them to be. I think a lot of it has to do with like those matchups obviously being pre-made before the season even begins. And then obviously that's like based on the trajectory of certain teams and their marketability. And then you kind of come to this point in the season, you're like, why the fuck do I want to watch the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks play? We already know who's winning that game. But I think, yeah, I would say the Boston and Milwaukee game was probably the most entertaining for me. I think it was just like the sensibility of like them obviously being the most competitive teams going up against each other, and then also like I guess the back and forth that the game kind of had. Like me and DJ had to like kind of step aside at some point to like hang out with family, but there was definitely a point in the first like two quarters where they were just trading blows and like no one was really giving up, and I think that's like I wouldn't say it was like necessarily the most captivating basketball, but it kind of just shows how talented both teams were. Just because like we would start we started with watching the Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers play, and then we thought that game just looked so casual, and then you switch over to like this Boston Celtics and Bucks matchup, and all of a sudden like it's so much more fast paced, and like everyone's putting buckets in, and yeah, I think that was like the most competitive game to me. Yeah, nothing that really stood out or kind of gave you some sort of like idea of like what the season's gonna look like based on Christmas. Like I think
Yeah,
that was just another day of basketball.
yeah. I mean, it's like the level of intensity changed from like that game to the Celtics uh, Bucks game,
Oh yeah,
and it was
100%.
like, and I think oftentimes it's like the primetime game too, so those guys are kind of playing up to par a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I definitely agree with between the Lakers and the Mavericks too, the Bucks and the
Bro,
Celtics.
I remember watching that game and I just knew that the Lakers were gonna shit the bed in the third quarter. I didn't know it'd be 50-point bad, but man, sucks that LeBron didn't get help that day. But yeah, I think whole sentiments agreed upon. It was mid. I think I think it's because the Christmas games, because it's become sort of expected. There isn't as much like build up as I'd like personally. I mean, we can all remember that legendary commercial. Granted, the jerseys were ass, but the jingle bell, like with the
Yeah.
hoop and all that. So I think there's just isn't that much build up to it anymore. Obviously, you had that one commercial or whatnot, but I think it's just they gotten too comfortable in a sense. I don't like the fact that they're kind of for sure teams that'll play. It makes sense though, just because at the end of the day it's a business, and you got to make your money or whatnot. But I think next year, I'm hoping for a better one for sure. I think the main one that I would like to see is Battle of New York for sure. I'd assume that's probably something we would have gotten if the like Kevin Durant rumors weren't so rampant throughout the offseason. But
But I don't even know how a team that has Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving not make Christmas Day. Like he had played in Christmas Day for so many years straight, where it's like, and then he's playing for Brooklyn, regardless of like, even if like let's say they had those crappy storylines in the summer.
yeah, I think they
Like,
still should have made it, but I think it
yeah,
was just kind of playing it safe where you don't want to watch like you didn't even know if Kyrie was certain at that point. We're not really
that's true.
trying to watch like Cam Thomas play against like LeBron and all that stuff. So I think it was just like the safe thing to do. But I agree they should have just made it regardless. But moving on from that mid ass slate, let's talk about man Luka Doncic, 60, 20, and 10. Teams were 0 and 13,884 when trailing by 9 with 35 or fewer seconds. But the Knicks kind of fooled everyone, I think,
The Knicks nicked.
Yeah, the Knicks were nicking for sure. Luka though, whew, dog. I mean, not only that, but you had Christian Wood and Spencer Dinwiddie hit those clutch threes, and I just think they're obviously the 82 game slate, so it's a lot of like one game you can't really use to determine your season. But I think this team, this game might be used as this sort of like propulsion point to where not to say that they're gonna be like jettisoning into like back up to where they were last year, but I think it's a good starting point to where you're starting to get your groove on. I mean, when Christian Wood's like starting, he's averaging basically 20 and 10 from like his 17 off the bench or whatever. So that's a little boost there. And I just think that Luka is. We always say Luka's different, but there's really no other way to describe it. Luka Doncic is probably one of, if not the most complete players in basketball right now, outside of the defense maybe. But when it comes to offense, I don't think there's anybody really fucking with him. But yeah, what were your guys' thoughts on that comeback?
Yeah, you know what though? Like, I agree with the propulsion thing because like they could either be like, okay, this is a great opportunity for the team to kind of like use this momentum going forward. You have one of the best players in the league, and if I'm being honest, um, if Dallas does make the playoffs, and I think you would have like obviously the team record is a huge thing with this award, but man, you have to pencil in Luca at the MVP award, regardless of where they're at right now. Like, this is just insane. Like, no one's ever had this kind of game. Like, the closest number is Wilt. Like, when you're in a conversation with Wilt and Elgin Baylor, it's kind of like, it's kind of hard, right?
Mm.
But in the same breath, um, I said this about Siakam and the Raptors when they played the Knicks, when Siakam dropped 52. And we're like, oh, so Siakam needs 50 points to beat the Knicks. So, like, does Luca need to do 60 20 and what did he have? 10? 60 20 and
Yeah.
whatever it was, the full stat line to beat the Knicks? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of tough. And I think that's also an indication that, like, Dallas clearly needs help for them to be a competitive team or to contend because, like, as young as Luca is, you're kind of wasting his window right now, where he's literally just like entering his prime as a player. And if you're not capitalizing on that, that's we're in a league now. The generation has changed, where if things don't change quickly, you could be looking at another rebuild because this guy's probably on his way out. So I'll
Yeah,
say that.
I 100% agree. Like I as much as 60, 20, and 10 is like pretty much amongst like the best stat lines we'll see in like NBA history, like it is one of those like things that like if you're down by 9 and your like best player already has like 50 like or however many he had before overtime, like then you obviously need to question like what are the other players on your team contributing. And like
Yeah.
I do think Christian Wood is like a good piece, and like Spencer Dinwiddie is a good piece too, but I do think they really need a second option if like they are going to like slate themselves as a team that wants to be competitive and not rebuild. Because I personally think like like Ruben mentioned, like you're kind of wasting the prime of like one of the best players we've seen in the NBA in like
Yeah.
this decade,
No
and
doubt.
it's kind
Yeah,
of
I think they
yeah.
have all the in between pieces. They just really need a second guy to put alongside Luka just to take somewhat of the pressure off him. They could have done it with Jalen Brunson, but is what it is. Now he's balling up in New York,
Yeah.
and Luka kind of. Actually, I don't think Jalen played that game, but yeah, I think the thing with the Mavs though is they're in that same hole with the Raptors where they're too good to be in the lottery,
Yeah.
but they're really not good enough to be in like the upper echelon of competing. But with the trade deadline coming up, all these pieces that are supposedly going to be on the move, I hope Dallas is really going to be in the buying seat coming into that. But with their lack of
Yeah.
assets, it's going to be tough. For sure.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it's gonna be really hard for them to move anything for anyone because
Mm.
they really don't have like the same draft capital necessarily, or even just player capital as like a team like Toronto, who's in the same position where you have a ton of young pieces, you have expiring contracts, and you have all your draft capital. Um, and so it's difficult, man. I'm thinking about what they could do in Dallas, and it's like I'm drawing blanks. Because what would you move in this case? Like, would you move Christian Wood? Because he's clearly a piece that you do need. So, unless a team is going full fire sale, which I think a team like Orlando might do, they might sell because they do have assets that they're willing to sell. Um, but they're also a team that's good enough to compete and buy a little bit into the playoffs if they so choose.
I
So
think
we will see.
I think my last take is they probably end up moving a lot of their like sort of pieces that don't get as much burn, like people like Davis Bertans and I don't know Dwight Powell maybe, and players like that of that sort of echelon on their respective team. Like because like you mentioned, they don't really have the like excessive amount of draft capital to like necessarily make huge moves, and I think it is just going to be a classic like 3-for-1 situation that I think will be the only option for them. I think so. I don't know if that gets them, their player that they need, but that's what I
Yeah.
would do
Man, in a
if I was the
perfect
GM.
world, Jaden Hardy develops into Luca's number two. That's all I'm saying. No, but
Well, I mean, they might. Well, there you go. You also just said the piece that they might be willing to move at the deadline. So,
I think a team that's like if I'm the Jazz, I feel like I'm intrigued at least. Granted,
100%.
Jaden Hardy hasn't had the best of runs when he's like playing in the top league, but in the G League he's putting up Luca kind of numbers. But yeah,
Josh
I
Green
mean,
too on Dallas. Josh
mm,
Green is an interesting prospect too.
for sure, and I think they're saying that he's like untouchable in a sense, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but that shows your vote of confidence for him in terms of like his development. Real quick before we head on to like the next section, who's like one player you guys would want to see them really target?
Oh, for Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say this. I know it's not gonna happen, so I'll put two names up. But the perfect star to play alongside Luca would literally be Pascal Siakam.
For sure.
Like, I think that name's been turned around pretty often. It's just DJ. We had this Twitter thread conversation with this one
This
dumbass who literally said
motherfucker didn't
he
want to
would not
trade Dorian Finney-Smith.
Dorian Finney-Smith. Dorian Finney-Smith. He would not trade Dorian Finney-Smith because he anchors their defense. Like, do you not realize that Pascal Siakam is a net positive defensively? He's as good versatile. Like, he's as good of a versatile defender there is. Like, and you are literally sacrificing that for an opportunity, like, to have Pascal Siakam. But anyways, like, whatever. It is what it is. Um, I would honestly love to see them get a real big. I think that matters. I think in terms of we talk about how much playmaking they need. The problem is too with this team is they don't have any real interior presence on both ends. And so for me, it's like I think if you're able to have a paint presence on both ends, that takes off a lot of pressure on a guy like Christian Wood. And that allows him to be a real secondary playmaker without having to exert too much energy on the defensive end. Because right now he's starting, and even then, like Dwight Powell is an undersized big. There's a lot of Maxi Kleber playing interior defense, and I know I get it. Like Dallas plays a lot like outside, um, but like clearly now in this league, like you need interior presence. Like the team that just won the championship had an interior presence, whether it was Kevon Looney or Draymond Green or guys that would attack the paint and put pressure on the paint. And Dallas doesn't have that. Like there's just two guys that I say, and it's hilarious because I was saying the exact same trade targets for Toronto, but Mo Bamba would be an awesome piece. I feel like for Dallas. Miles Turner, like those two names I'm saying, and another piece if they want like another playmaker, a guy who can score, can shoot the ball, which I think is really important because Tim Hardaway has not played very well as of late, is Terrence Ross, uh, and I think those are pieces that could be had at cheap, you know. So yeah, those are interesting targets for me. Pascal would for sure be at the top of their list, but they definitely won't get Pascal. There's no way.
What about you,
Yeah,
Chen?
I think for me, really quickly, I think the one player that for some reason honestly came to mind was DeAndre Ayton. I think he's just a big body in the paint too, and
Mm.
I think he is someone that like you know is probably going to be on the market for even though he has been re-signed like that beginning part of the season. It's obviously clear that I think the Suns are going to need to do something. I could see them making a move. I don't really know, obviously, again, the realisticness of this. I think a more realistic option could probably be someone like OG Anunoby. I think he'd definitely fill in the spot better than Dorian Finney-Smith. What the fuck? But
Yeah.
I think I think he would also be more utilized in that offensive system, and you would see him average closer to 20 compared to I don't know what he's averaging right now, but I know he's kind of not the first or maybe second even option on that Raptors squad right now, and he would definitely get like more burn on the offensive side, and then obviously be a huge help on in sort of the defensive presence. I think that would fill a lot of the holes with not even having a true center. Um,
Mm.
and he'd probably play well alongside Christian Wood and stuff like that. But yeah,
Mm,
I think those are the
yeah,
two players for me.
my two. I think first one. I know Christian would probably be happy about this because he wouldn't be playing next to Zion anymore. But I think Jonas Valanciunas is probably going to be
Yes,
one of the
Yeah.
Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Jonas
That's a great. That's
Valanciunas is going to be
yeah.
one of the big names around the deadline. I feel. I think putting him there with Luka allows Christian Wood to play more of the four, which I think he's like better accustomed to. And I think it's somewhat doable. You know, Tim Hardaway Jr. is somebody who I think would fit decently into the Pelicans roster. Granted, you know, it's 3 years left on his contract, so it'd be a little bit of a tough sell. But Jonas Valanciunas is a guy who I think when he's fully healthy, fully like on his shit, he's a top 10 center for sure. And I think
Mhm.
you've seen him be
100%.
able, everybody kind of flirts with that 40% 3 points, but I think that's kind of flawed because it's only like one or two attempts. But putting him with a player that has the ability to get player shots like Luka is gonna like I think really improve his game, and I think it's gonna thrust him into that potentially upper echelon of centers. And on 14.7, that's pretty solid too. So you know, I think he's gonna be one of the big names around the deadline. And the other one, I think Luka just needs another shot creator, and I think another one probably a bit more of like a home run hitter, which is like less likely. I think would be something like a Jordan Clarkson, especially if the
Mhm.
Jazz are selling on everyone. So I think those are two solid targets. I don't know about like how it's really gonna go though, just because I think those two guys are again probably two of the bigger names. So it's really them trying to put together the best package compared to the other teams, and that's probably where Dallas will struggle. But you know, I think at the end of the day, this is a team that'll definitely be in the playoffs. But I think we're all in agreement that you know, again, they're in that gray area, and if they really want to get to that next level, they're gonna need another guy to really step up. But moving on to the next section. So Devin Booker,
Yeah.
you know,
Tough.
his calf or his groin gave out him or whatever it was, you know, that was pretty shitty on Christmas Day, but it is what it is. He's going to be out, I think 4 weeks is the minimum, and that's when he gets reevaluated. So we don't know if it's out for longer or whatever it may be. But man, the Suns are 2-6 without Booker, and that includes like the Nuggets game because I don't really count him as being a part of that because you know it was like 5 minutes or whatnot, and they got beat by an average margin of 12 and a half. And the two wins that they do have were against the Grizzlies and the Lakers. So those are kind of like, you know, one like legitimate win, and the other one's, the Lakers. So what does this mean for the Suns? I think Christian kind of alluded to it. I think the Suns are gonna kind of be forced into they're gonna be forced into doing a move this upcoming deadline or like soon, just because 4 weeks without basically 30 points per game is a lot, especially when you're already kind of another man down with Cam Johnson going out early in the season. Because Cam Johnson's not ass, but that rest of the team sucks booty cheeks. But yeah, the Suns are definitely, I think, going to be pigeonholed into doing a move, and I think with that they might get screwed a bit because other teams know for sure that they need to get another body, and with all like the Jay Crowder stuff going on, it's just, I think the Phoenix Suns, it's like this. Ooh.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But yeah, I think it means, aside from that though, I think winners work. We're gonna see if CP3 is truly washed, because he's playing all right without Booker. Number 2, if DA can really get to that next level of being consistent, because I don't think there's no excuse for being the first overall pick behind guys like Luka and Trae Young, and you don't even average 20. Like I think he should be a solid 22 and 12, and I think he has all the tools to really do that. And number 3, we're gonna see if the Suns are frauds or not. Granted, I'm pretty sure we all think they're frauds, but just to be a little unbiased, had to throw that into there. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough stretch for sure. They've shown that they can't really do it right now, but I was gonna say, yeah, if there's a player, Gary Trent Jr. might be the one. You take a Jay Crowder?
I'm taking Aiton. Ooh, well, this is what I love because Phoenix and Toronto become perfect trade partners. Toronto has salary, they have draft capital, they have a player who helps in the short term and the long term. So you could offer Gary Trent, you could offer draft capital. Let's say that's this year's first round pick. Wait, protected, I'm sure. Some sort of lottery protection. And then they have salary fillers, guys like Thaddeus Young, Kent Birch, Otto Porter. If they decide that they want extra guard play, Malachi Flynn, who has been up and down with the team. There's also an opportunity that they could shop Chris Boucher, who's been coach DNPs for the last 2 games as well. So actually, no, not a coach DNP against the Clippers, but like Nick Nurse just came out yesterday morning and called him out and said he's got to play better. So Chris Boucher, Gary Trent, Birch, Thaddeus Young, whatever these guys are, first round pick. And you're talking about sending that to Phoenix for Jay Crowder, who's not played a game for them and doesn't look like he'll play for them. And DeAndre Ayton, who clearly has not enjoyed playing there, and it looks like he's their only trade asset in order for them to get some real significant pieces to help. That benefits both teams, and that's why I have the background of Gary Trent Jr., because, he could be lying there in Phoenix, in the sunny lands and dressing like an idiot like he does. That's what I'm talking about. I feel like he is a perfect fit, too. Like, he's a perfect fit for Phoenix, whether or not he comes off the bench or starts alongside Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And Mikal Bridges could play the 4. They could play a smaller brand of basketball if they wanted to. But I don't know. This is how I feel about it. I feel like that trade would help them in the short term, because then you get a guy to help you within the next couple of weeks, right? While Devin Booker is out, and let's say he's out for 4 weeks, like it's not guaranteed that he's going to be back like right at the end of January either, right? So this might take them into February. And with this time missed, it doesn't seem like Devin Booker will make an All-Star game, which is also a huge conversation, right? So. If he's going to be out for that long, he might as well just be out until All-Star break, right? And just get his recovery right. If the team can stay up to par, if the team can kind of stay afloat in the playoff conversation, but like you said, they're 2-6 with an average margin of 12 points, right? A 12-point deficit. So I think they have to make a play now. Clearly, there's been some stuff back and forth with DeAndre Ayton since he was re-signed as a restricted free agent. So I would personally love to see that deal. I don't know how Phoenix fans feel about that, because this is coming from a very biased perspective. But I think it works, and I think Toronto needs that. But if they don't do something now, I will say like I will make a bet with anybody here to say that Phoenix could very well fall out of the playoff conversation, and they might find themselves in the play-in spot. And I don't know if that's where you want to be with Chris Paul at his age, and Devin Booker injured, and DeAndre Ayton disgruntled, and Mikal Bridges, who's kind of just like, obviously he's a really key up and coming 3-and-D player. Cam Johnson, who's injured. Like, I believe Landry Shamet is also out for a short period of time. So there's not a whole lot of upside with the roster, dude. So something has to happen, like Chin said. Like, I fully agree with that. And it has to be the right deal though, because Ayton, they can't get whatever deal they decide to do with Ayton and Crowder wrong, because outside of that roster, it seems like everybody else is untouchable for them. So something's got to happen now. That's all I got to say. If they want to stay afloat, something has to happen, like literally now.
100%. What you
Yeah,
thinking, Chad?
I think I personally think they're gonna fall out of the playoff race. I think just with how, like, I mean, I think given that the teams below them are definitely like good enough to surpass them, and I think with the absence of Devin Booker really being your number one option, I just don't see a team with like a team led by just CP3 and DeAndre Ayton with one prolific like role player in Mikal Bridges really being you know sufficient enough to like stay in that fifth seed that they're currently in. Like looking at the Kings, the Mavs, even the Warriors and the Jazz, maybe. I mean, not to rule out the Trailblazers. I'm just naming them off, but I think all those teams are highly more capable of knocking out the Suns if Devin Booker is going to be out that long. Um, so yeah, I do think they move someone, and it probably is going to be Jay Crowder, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one thing I was thinking about while we were talking is that I think DeAndre Ayton to the Suns is like it's like them being that one greedy fantasy manager, like that wants to like pretty much get the most out of him until like they just can't anymore. Because
Yeah,
like even when they began the season, they didn't re-sign him until everyone had seen what they'd offered just to like kind of test the market, and that's only when they matched the offer and like signed him back on, right? So I do think like they're going to be pretty greedy about what they get for DeAndre Ayton, and I guess rightfully so. Like he is obviously like a plus player in the NBA. He's no bum by any means, but
yeah.
he's
He's a premier
obviously
center, man.
also he is. At the same time, I don't think he's also necessarily worth all the money he is getting. But obviously, with the sort of I guess lack of like talented centers, like with really being like the center position having like just like the top guys and then obviously that other tier. I think DeAndre Ayton is worth that money in that sense too. So yeah, I think what I'm really trying to say is DeAndre Ayton is not going to be sold very easily. So I think they're going to be looking for huge packages, which realistically I don't think anyone is going to want to bite on, except maybe the
Mm-hmm.
Raptors, which I think they could use DeAndre Ayton in that sense. But
Well, they definitely need a center.
Mm.
So
Yeah, me personally, I think DA is kind of like, I think that only happens if they lose like 10 plus straight kind of thing where everything's kind of going wrong. DB might be out for like way longer than we expect, and to the point where the season's pretty much lost. The idea I had in terms of a player they could acquire was more so kind of a guy to plug the hole and wait till Devin Booker comes back. And I think it's a guy like Malik Beasley could not necessarily replace that production because Devin Booker, as much as we shit on him, is one of the better scorers in the NBA. But Malik
mm-hmm.
Beasley, I think, is a guy that could really, you know, help step into that opportunity. He's 38% from three this year, has the ability to get to the rack, and is an overall solid guy. And I think when you look at the plethora of people that the Jazz had, I think he's acquirable without kind of killing all the assets that you have, because especially considering that the Suns are lacking in that. And I just think again, Malik Beasley is a guy that could help steady the ship. He's not going to steer it in any way, shape, or form. He's not going to head it or anything. But, you know, if fully healthy, once Devin Booker gets back, if you have a guy like Malik Beasley, which I think the thing that the team is really lacking is a secondary creator because CP3 can get everyone involved, but if they're so stagnant that they're not moving around with the ball, it's hard for like them to really, really get to their full potential, especially in playoff basketball where being able to make shots on your own accord is really what matters. And I think Malik Beasley is a guy who could help shore that up for sure. But yeah, I mean,
Gary Trent, man, I'm telling
Gary
you.
Trent might do that too. But I don't want to say they're gonna fall out the playoffs just because like I want to see DeAndre Ayton kind of step into that sort of franchise center role and at least keep them afloat. Mainly because he's on my fantasy team, but we'll see what happens. It's going to be one of the more interesting things to look at for sure. But all right, heading into this next topic, who do you guys think is going to make a post-Christmas push? Whether it's from a team out to the play-in race / the playoffs. Who's your guys' pick to like kind of really jettison into this new year?
To be honest, I think this is like, for lack of a better word, the most dick riding I'll do. But I think the Golden State Warriors are the
Golden State Riders. The Golden State Dick Riders.
No, I think the Golden State Warriors are just going to honestly be that team that's going to like take over the West and at least make it into the 6th seed spot. I think the Suns, I think, are, like we just mentioned, I think they're inevitably going to fall out of the 1 to 6 race. I think they'll be a play-in team. The Mavs, I think, still need to get it together. The Trailblazers are obviously a good team, but I think with the sort of, well, I don't know if it's lack of experience, which is the best way to put it, but I think just with the experience that the Warriors do have, and I think even looking at how the team has been playing now, without Steph Curry, I think they're still very hungry to make that run. I mean, Klay Thompson is, I think, in all opinion, I think he's returning to form. Obviously not, maybe like the prime Klay Thompson, but he's been playing exceptionally well. I think Draymond has realized that he can't play bummy all season, and he's been stepping up. And then they do have their players that are stepping up, like Dante DiVincenzo, Jonathan Kuminga. And they still have a lot of talent in Jordan Poole, of course, too. I think they're just going to be that team that, when Curry even does come back for those last few games, I think they're going to go on a huge run. And I think they slide into the 6th or 5th spot, I think, without question, honestly.
Respect. Yeah, for me, it's I'm gonna go with the Magic. I think there's, as JJ Redick said in his episode with Paulo Banchero, there's value in playing in these high pressure situations when you're young. One, obviously it's good experience, but two, you're able to kind of get a feel for these clutch situations. And as much as, going into the clutch situations in regular seasons is good growing pains, nothing really compares to postseason basketball. You can never really simulate that feeling. And I think there's value in whether they win or lose, being able to be in those situations. And, I think as great as this upcoming draft class is, I feel that they're set with their young core. I think it's more about filling out the rest of the roster now. They have their big three, Paulo, Franz, and Wendell Carter Jr. They got their wild card, the guy who can kind of do, he's the Sean Livingston-esque, steady Eddie in a sense or whatever it may be. Bul's like the wild card. Markel's the lead guard, who I think is still pretty solid and can, give flashes of what made him the first overall pick. And I think I'd rather see what this young group can do rather than, trying to tank for another guy, whether it's Wembanyama or Scoot. And you really want to just, I think, give the keys to Paulo and Franz and really see how they can, like, make stuff work. Because I think personally, right now, if everything goes according to plan, I think Paulo and Franz can usurp Tatum and Brown for, like, the top wing duo, low-key. With Paulo being able to do what he does, averaging numbers that hasn't been done since LeBron. Franz being able to, like, really, I think, emerge as one of, if not the best players of his draft class, the one that includes, like, Cade and Jalen Green. I don't think, and Scotty. Franz has really, I think, separated himself from them so far. And if there's a guy, I don't know if he'll make an all-star because, like, at least not for the next few years, because he's a little, when it comes to the all-star, I think you got to be a little bit of, like, a bravado to you. He's, like, very chill. But when you look at the roster, I think it's like it's set in a sense. You know, what they
Mhm.
have is they don't really need to have any more home run hitters. They just really need to, shore up the rest of the roster, get some veteran presence, you know, get some maybe grit and grinder kind of guys, and I think they'll be set for like the next bit of their future. But yeah, for me, it's the Magic, and I think with guys like Kyle Kuzma not wanting to return and him probably getting moved, that I think opens the door for them, especially. But yeah, Rube, what about you, bro?
This team has already made a push, and I think they will continue to make a push. Is Brooklyn?
Mm.
I think they very well could take the first seed in the Eastern Conference. I will. Okay, I'll go on a limb here to say that we can revisit this by All-Star break. The Brooklyn Nets will be the first seed in the Eastern Conference. I think they're just playing so well right now. Seth Curry is coming back from injury. I think they're starting to. I think they're really healthy now, barring something crazy going on within their locker room or whatever. I think this is a team you can honestly say that I think they will be what we all expected to be this year. I think they're putting it all together. I think Jacques Vaughn is just so underrated as a coach, where he has that locker room uh, kind of within his grasp, like and clearly the guys on the team respect him, and they are second in the East right now. So this is not like some hot take because they are 23-12, if I'm not mistaken. They have the same they're 2 games back of Boston. Boston might be so good that like they just break away from the rest of the pack. Um, and knowing Milwaukee, they like to be, at least from what I understand, is cautious with their players because the regular season does not matter to a team that has won a championship, and we just all know how that is. And that's not to say anything bad because Milwaukee is very much a team that no one talks about enough, but it's for the main reason that Milwaukee's in the conversation every year to win a championship. And they've been for like the last 5 or 6 years. So, um, I'm not sure if Milwaukee will care too much about the regular season this year. Because if as long as they're in the top three and with home court advantage of the first 2 rounds, I think they're fine. Um, but yeah, for me, Brooklyn's a team that I think needs every advantage they can get, and I think that's going to be a team that's gunning for the first seed in the Eastern Conference, and I think that's very much a team also that has the talent and the star power to compete with a team like Boston. And they have the pieces, and like you're still waiting on a guy like Ben Simmons to play his best basketball, which he has really improved over the last course of the month. So Brooklyn is on my agenda to be the first seed in the East. I want to look at the West because um, it's so fluid, and for me, I think with Kawhi coming back to form, I think the Clippers will make another push, and I think they'll break away from the pack a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see if they end up being a top two in the Western Conference by the All Star break because it looks like Kawhi's back to playing every game except for back to backs. And if that's the case and Paul George is back healthy, you just wait to see how John Wall looks like. I think those are two teams that have all the pieces. Like we talked about them so often. Like if everything on paper were actually good in real, like IRL, right? Like these are teams that are championship contenders. And I think I came into the season saying to you guys that I think the Clippers are going to be in the Western Conference Finals. And it looks like my prediction is holding up because of how well they're playing lately. And I will say the same thing about Brooklyn, that I think they continue their push.
I
Hot
respect it.
takes.
Yeah, yeah. No, for me, not to delve too far into it, but yeah, I don't really care if the Bucks like, as long as they're in the top half and not having to go through the play-in, you know, Chris Middleton being hurt. But okay, that's enough of that. But yeah, Brooklyn, whew, they're humming. 10-game win streak. KD's playing the best basketball he's played since his MVP season, and Ben's like somewhat getting back. And the way they play is just, I think, so beautiful because they
Mm.
have two of the purest bucket getters on their team. Ben's able to really run that offense at times. Nicholas Claxton is looking like a potential DPOY candidate. They're just like, they're a team that's starting to really, really heat up. And I think you saw that last year where they were really blitzing everyone and, got out to an early lead in the Eastern Conference, and then boom, KD goes down, and then you dip. So
Yep.
the one thing for sure is health, barring both your teams that you brought up. But you know, I don't think any of us ever really wish on the team's downfall, except maybe the Suns. But you know, if there's those two teams, I think are for sure. They're teams I think people are sleeping on still in a sense, especially with a team like the Clippers. But the Brooklyn's putting everybody on notice. Again, you said the Clippers are starting to get healthy and fully healthy. Those are two of, if not like the most stacked rosters for sure.
Yeah.
But alrighty, so that does it for most of the general topics. But let's get into a good old classic we haven't done in a hot
Yeah,
minute.
there we go.
Yes, sir. This is called Blacktop Showdown. For those who've never seen this podcast before, welcome first of all. But if you haven't ever really gotten to this point, what are you doing? But here's basically how it goes. I have selected 3 players, and the situation is this. On the blacktop, you know, no ticky-tack bullshit calls, just pure hoop. And how it goes. Each person gets 2 rounds. Round 1, you're just making your case for why your person would beat your other person's ass. You know, for example, Miles Turner and Zion Williamson. You know, it probably should have ended how it did, but you know, Miles Turner is unequivocally better in Zion on the blacktop for that one situation. So it's not about who's on paper the better player. It's about being able to like say why your person's better. You know, being able to really make a case for your person. Second round, it's just a good old rebuttal, whether you're like tearing down the other person's argument, whatever it may be. And then it's between 2 people, obviously. And then whoever's not like making their case during like that round or whatever, you're judging it. So anyways, Ruben, pick a number 1 to 3.
3.
All right, you got Christian Wood.
All
right,
Christian Wood.
Pick a number between 1 and 2.
1.
Ooh, you got Larry Markkinen.
Oh, damn.
So alrighty. Ruben, my brother, I will set a timer. I'll probably like, if I do it like this, you can read it like fine, right?
Yeah. Well, we can just probably hear it go off or something.
Oh, that too, yeah. So, round 1 is a minute. Y'all ready? All right, Ruben, opening argument in 3, 2, 1, go.
We're talking about Christian Wood, a 6'10" power forward and center who is the definition of versatility with his ability to dribble and play make from the top of the key. The in-between game is a positive, above average 3-point shooter, and he has the length and size and the skill and the footwork to be able to take defenders down to the block, and he's got the ability to play make for others. We've seen in different situations he's been able to adapt to any roster, and what he's able to do, regardless of the roster and the players around him, is the ability to score. So when you take that on a team option, you put that on a one-on-one. When you give him the ball at the top of the key in a check situation, he's going to be able to take the defender anywhere he wants to go, regardless of their size, of their speed. He's got every
5,
counter to every move,
4,
and that's the most important
3,
thing on the blacktop
2,
is when you have the ball,
1,
you've got to be able to do
go.
anything regardless of the defender.
Alrighty. Good stuff. Christian, presenting Larry Markkinen. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. Well, let's just be honest here. When we think about Larry Markkinen, he is a 7-foot, 25-year-old who is averaging shooting splits of 52% from the general field goal and 43% from 3-point on 7 attempts a game. That's a fucking demigod of a player right there. Like, that's literally a 2K build if you really ask for it. You know, averaging almost 25 points per game on a struggling Utah Jazz team. I think in like any sort of ISO position, he's obviously been like a force to be reckoned with when it comes to slashing, and you know, given that he can also play on the sort of like exterior or sorry, the fucking from the 3-point line, he obviously I think is a force to be reckoned with. I think given that Christian Wood is like the skinny ass motherfucker, like he's gonna own him in I think most ways. If I'm being honest, there's just no way to put it.
Dang.
Yes,
Alrighty.
sir.
All right, 30-second rebuttal. Ruben, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Lauri Markkanen is having a career year, but what are the most consensus things about his buckets? They do not come from him creating those shots at the top of the key. He's getting those in situations off handoffs, off screen and roll, off secondary play makes. So, in the blacktop, when you're doing one-on-one and a guy who shoots that wall, well, if he doesn't get the ball in those situations off the ball, then he can't thrive against a guy like Christian Wood, who can create with the ball.
Ooh, okay. Christian, you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so obviously Ruben has never played on the blacktop because obviously with anyone who plays on the blacktop, you can create a shot by basically just fucking taking a shot. If you're playing 3 dribbles, you obviously don't even need you take the ball and you shoot the ball. It's only a one-on-one situation. So if this guy can make a shot just by being handed off the ball and shooting it in the basket, he obviously can make a contested shot over Christian Wood. It is one of those situations where maybe he's not the best ISO player, but I literally played on the blacktop yesterday and got scored on by my friend Alvin, who got just fucking shot on me like without even dribbling the ball. This is the blacktop, you know.
Damn.
If you're a pure shooter, you're a pure shooter. Sorry, I went over 30 seconds.
That's
Yeah, but if he's like this, yeah, yeah.
All right. I think you both presented very, very solid arguments. You know, Lauri Markkanen, yes, maybe a lot of his shots come off screen and rolls and all that good stuff. But I would also think some of Christian Wood's offense comes off of that too. And when you just think about the kind of size difference, granted it's not too much, but you know, when you think about everything,
size does matter.
True. In this case, it really do. But granted, it's only like
TT size. The TT size matters.
Oh, this is to say, I think Ruben was very analytical about it, but Christian was just he just brought out the passion. You know, he brought out the fucks, the shits. He brought out all that good. I don't know about that, but
he brought this, yo.
When you think about it, you know, he's right. The blacktop's one-on-one, maybe not gonna have too many of those. Like, you're not gonna have any handoffs, but you know, getting a bucket is getting a bucket. So I think I'd have to go Christian for there. Ruben, you presented a good argument, but you know, respect. All right, we will go.
This section always got me dead, bro.
Yeah. Holy shit. All right. Yo. All right, Christian.
What are you talking about? We're just grabbing hands.
Would you like to keep Lauri or switch out for this next one?
Yeah, he wants Lauri, Kyle Lauri.
I don't know. Wait, so how many options are left? Like, how many other players are there possibly?
There's one, and I'll just take the other one. If you want to keep rolling with Lauri, or you want to switch.
Or
I'll take the other. I'll take the other player. I'm just curious who it is.
All right. Jaren Jackson Jr.
Oh, damn.
All right, and then I'll go for Lauri. Do you want to go first or second?
All right.
I'll go second.
All right. Okay, minute for myself. Ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, when we're talking about Lauri Markkanen, we're talking about a top pick. We're talking about a guy that came out of Arizona, dominated motherfuckers, and he's still doing that now. You know, had a bit of a short spell, but I blame most of that on Jim Boylan being a dumb fuck rather than, you know, Lauri not balling. We saw last year the triple towers. You know, Lauri did his thing. That's why he's playing on the Jazz and having a career year. He's able to get his buckets at multiple levels. You know, granted, some of it might be off some screens, but he has the ability to take guys in the post. And Jaren Jackson Jr., that motherfucker can't defend. All he does is foul. You know, whatever the blocks may be, the foul ratio is probably way worse. And even if that's not on the blacktop, you know what Lauri Markkanen is going to do? Bing, 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 bing. And he's going to make Jaren Jackson Jr. look like a fucking fool. Lauri Markkanen, consensus, potentially top 5 power forward by the end of the year. You never know. But Lauri Markkanen, dog, straight dog. For sure. All right, Chin. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I think this is a different situation where Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be a different player on the blacktop. I mean, you can't really you can call fouls on the blacktop, but you a bitch if you call fouls on the blacktop. You know what I mean? This guy is averaging 3.1 blocks. I don't even know this, like, this season. I think that, like, in this situation, this is like a defender that could actually lock up a 7-foot Lauri Markkanen, because he obviously is going to need to play more off the dribble. And like we mentioned in the previous argument, he's not going to be able to just take those one-off shots where you can like take no dribbles and make a shot over Jaren Jackson Jr. And on top of that, Jaren Jackson Jr. is the more prolific game player. He is shooting just about 60% in the like 2-point percentile. And I mean, he is a 35% 3-point shooter, so he can stroke that thing once in a while, Yeah, I think just on top of that, he's going to like lock up Lauri Markkanen much more on the blacktop than Lauri is going to lock up him, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Some good arguments, man. We got some good arguments here.
All right. My
Just want to say Christian Wood would cook them both.
Rebuttal. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get down to brass tacks. When it comes down to it, Jaren Jackson Jr. is a fucking role player. But what's Lauri Markkanen? A number one fucking option. That's what he is. Lauri Markkanen is dusting that motherfucker. Jaren Jackson Jr. ain't gonna do shit. I don't give a fuck if he's leading the league in blocks. How's he getting most of those? By the rest of his team defending. He gets the, help side bullshit, whatever it may be. Lauri Markkanen, straight bucket, straight shooter. He's gonna fucking dog Jaren Jackson Jr.
Damn. This guy said, hello, welcome to American Gangster.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go, Chin.
So you gotta tell me a player averaging 16 points per game that plays beside Ja Morant, I don't know, who averages like close to like already 30. He's got obviously a much better team around him, and you're saying he ain't a dog as well. If Jaren Jackson Jr. was put on the Utah Jazz right now, he'd be doing just as much as Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen is surrounded by a fucking injured Colin Sexton with one ankle, bro, and fucking Mike Conley. Mike Conley, bro. 3 seconds. I'll say the name again. Mike Conley. Mike fucking Conley, bro.
Hey,
that's your.
Mike Conley
Bro.
fucking owns the Grizzlies, bro. Joe ain't got shit on Mike Conley when it comes to Grizzlies history.
Lauri Markkanen could be the only player on the floor, and then the Utah Jazz would do the same thing.
Bro, these are good arguments, man. You made a really good point, Chin, about Jaren getting his despite being around a better squad and like his defensive prowess. And like you did have a good argument with him being in the first. If he were in the Utah Jazz situation, we might be seeing the same thing. And whether or not someone agrees, because this is my opinion, I do agree with that. But the DJ, really good argument on Lauri Markkanen. And I really do think like Jaren Jackson does foul a lot. And I think on the blacktop, it's really important if he could stretch the floor. And like obviously if you call your own fouls, man, Lauri's gonna be calling those like 5 times during the game. Damn, this is a tough argument, man. Damn. Because I would say on the blacktop, Lauri, like you argued it in a way that Lauri does have better offensive abilities in the one-on-one setting than Jaren Jackson. But Jaren Jackson does have size. And he has the ability to defend those shots. This is tough, man. Yeah, okay. Let's do something that we've never done on the blacktop. I'll give you guys 30 seconds each again. I need 30 seconds each right now to put this in, please.
Alrighty.
I need it.
3, 2, 1.
Is it DJ? Yeah.
Oh, okay, shit. Yeah. I'll go. Okay. 3, 2, 1. I don't give a fuck if he's getting his stuff around Ja Morant. The fact of the matter is, Jaren Jackson Jr. can't stay healthy. He's a dude who fouls too much. He's a dude that gets his shit in the flow of offense. You know what Lauri Markkanen is? He is the offense. I don't give a fuck if it's the Jazz, like not having too many other players around him. Lauri Markkinen, number one option. Fucking Jaren Jackson Jr. might not even be the fourth option on that team. Lauri Markkinen, he is offense, 100%. Jaren Jackson Jr., not so much.
All right, just give me the winner rate. Pass me the 30 seconds.
Come on now. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, maybe Lauri Markkinen didn't get his, but he's averaging not even a block and steal per game, and this guy is like plays the 4 position. If he ain't even like stopping Jaren Jackson Jr. on the defensive side, but Jaren Jackson Jr. is stopping him, how is he ever going to beat him if Jaren Jackson Jr. is dogging on him? Lauri Markkinen is going to maybe make 1 or 2 shots before he gets stopped, like inevitably, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to get his because he can make his shots, averaging 16 points per game with so 3-point percentage shooting, but still owning the paint. Like, come on, dog.
He ain't making any of that shit by himself though.
Lauri Markkinen can't defend shit.
Oh,
How did Kawhi Leonard win the 2019 defense wins championships?
Dude, oh my god. This is probably our best one so far. This is easily our best one. Fuck.
I feel like every time we do this, it reminds me of like what's that one show with Ticket? That fucking guy who's always yelling. Do you guys know what
KG?
show I'm talking about? Is it? I forgot what the show is called. Like,
KG certified? Like, are you talking about KG show?
no. There's like a guy named. No, I'll try and find it.
His name is Ticket, right?
Yeah, like
Or
he goes,
yeah,
and then
it's,
there's
it's a TV show.
there's
and he
also
just,
that
like,
English
yells.
guy.
Right?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways,
I will explain my reasoning for choosing this player. I will have to give it to Christian. I'm sorry, DJ. You were very close to taking it from me, but I think sometimes the order of the arguments matter in the sense, because your argument, once you gave that and said like he's cooking him like as a first option, and like I was like, okay, I'm taking DJ. Christian better have something good. And I am of the personal opinion that defense is so important on the blacktop, because if you can't guard a guy 1-on-1, then you're gonna get cooked the rest of the game, and you're gonna get tired, and you're gonna lose confidence. And so, literally, the slight edge like this to Jaren Jackson. So,
That's
but
okay.
like that was our best. That was bravo.
That's
That
okay.
was our best
Jared
blacktop
Jackson.
showdown.
Jared Jackson can't hold a fucking candle to Lauri Markkinen, man. That's okay.
I don't know. I think he actually could.
Listen, I think he could, because the thing is too, like, he is a very good defensive player, and I think that really matters on the blacktop, because you can't guard somebody on one-on-one the blacktop. Like, it's frustrating, dude. Like, it's frustrating.
But have we
definitely do
ever
think
seen
Lauri-
Jaren Jackson Jr. take a motherfucker off the dribble? I haven't seen it. Have we?
Oh, he
have we-
could just crab. Well, I mean, he said he could just crab dribble his way to the paint. So
Lauri gonna get more than a block?
Yeah, he ain't never
he-
get a
you know
block.
what? Lauri has been a more positive defensive player this year than he has been his entire career, but like, he's definitely not been positive defensive player his entire career. So, but no, Lauri for sure is kills, man. Lauri might be an all-star this year. So, I mean, we could have said the same thing about Jaren Jackson last year too, though. He could have been an all-star last year if he didn't go down with or like, I think he was in the conversation to be all-star last year, right?
I think
So-
ever since like he played his first full healthy season, like a couple years ago, he's always been on the cusp of it. I think.
Yeah. But anyways, best blacktop showdown we had. Christian Wood cooking
100%.
both up. Christian Wood's cooking the both.
In 3 dribble, I'd have to agree. I think Christian Wood is cooking the
In 3 dribble? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, if we play 3 dribble,
Christian Wood he's dogging both of those.
Jaren Jackson
fuckers.
Jr. is losing in those ones. I will attest to that.
Yeah. If you just said like 1-on-1, like no limitations, no restrictions, one ref or something, like Jaren Jackson might win that against all 3.
But it's gonna be the most
But
boring win. He's either
Yeah.
gonna take the uncontested 3 or crab dribble that bullshit all the way to the
yeah.
hole.
Laurie and Christian would probably be the most fun matchup.
For sure. But alrighty. That has been another episode of the Blacktop Podcast. We appreciate y'all kicking it with us. Christian and Ruben, y'all got anything to say before we end here?
Happy New Year to all y'all, and Happy New Year to you boys. Love you guys.
Love
I've
y'all
loved the
too.
show since we do it. So hopefully we get one in person, man. We gotta jump on a table and have a conversation like this. So
100%.
yeah, man.
Christian, you got anything
Yeah.
to say?
No, I ain't got nothing to say. Everything that Ruben said, basically. Yeah. Happy New Year's to everyone. We'll be back with more to come in the new year.
100%. Stay taking back shots. Stay safe. Stay blessed. We'll see y'all soon.
Back shots.